this is our pre-season podcast, and I just want to go over before we start the 5 fixtures we've got, and apparently there's a 6th one. We're playing the same team twice. I don't know if you're aware about that, but I'll fill you in a minute if you're not. So we kick off our pre-season this Saturday at Nashville, and we are playing Sunderland at 11 in the evening UK time. And then the Thursday we've got Wrexham at the Yankee Stadium in New York. We then play Leeds in Chicago, and then we head back to Anfield for games against Monaco and Como. And I've just read that we will be playing Como twice. We're going to play them behind closed doors at midday as well. So get your thoughts on that in a bit. Just to quickly go over the squad that has travelled. The goalkeepers are Mamadashvili, Woodman, Davies and Hall. The defenders are Gomez, Jacquet, Kirkes, Tsimikas, Frimpong, Chambers, Ramsey, Scanlon. Midfielders, Soboslai, Jones, Elliott, Nione, McConnell. And the forwards are Engamoa, Chiesa, Morrison, Wright, Abe, Kumas and Sonny Lambie. And travelled with an injury, we've got Jaros, Leone, Bradley, Endo, Bashetic and Ekatike. And players who will catch up with them later on the tour is Allison, Van Dijk, Gravenberch, McAllister, Wirtz, Gakpo, Munoz and Isak. So we're up to date with the fixtures and that. So yeah, just to start with, let's go to Az first. What do you think of the actual pre-season fixtures? Sunderland, Wrexham, Leeds and Monaco and Como.
I'm quite excited, to be fair. The biggest thing that I think we needed was a challenge to really understand exactly how Iraola wants to play. We also needed to understand exactly the types of questions he's going to be asking of his players. I think Sunderland is a great way to start. They had a great Premier League season coming up last year. They've done pretty well, all things considered, especially since we've seen a lot of the Championship sides come up and then bounce straight back down. So I think it's a really nice, strong way to start the pre-season. It's fun, I think, playing against Wrexham. There's somebody that, of course, having that celebrity backing has meant that they've built a bit more of a profile that's kind of bigger than themselves as an actual football club, and that's no disrespect to them. They've done tremendously well coming up to the Championship now. But I would say that I'm really excited more than anyone else is to play Como. They're a team that I've respected for a while, especially since Fabregas has come in. As you both know, well, as you all know, I'm a big fan of Fabregas's tactics, the way that he set up the side. So I'm really excited to see exactly what we're going to be like. Really excited to see what Iraola has to do with the formations, the way that he's asking the players to play, and also the challenges that are going to come up against some of these big teams as well.
Kev?
Yeah, exactly what Az said. I'll be interested to see how much he uses the younger players. Certainly, he's going to be using them in the first couple of games at least, because obviously our squad, we are missing a lot of big key name players. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of time he gives to the likes of Harvey Elliott, let's say, or Ramsey, who we were I was sort of crying out for last season to give him a chance when we were bereft of a right back. I know that he will be giving the younger players time just to see what they're capable of doing and whether they match up with what he wants. Unfortunately, I would love to have gone to one of the games at Anfield. Unfortunately, I can't make it this year. But I think overall, the experience of being in America for some of these players who probably have never been there before, being around the team environment, I think that will boost their confidence. It will also, I think, make them want to play more and want to do better than maybe they have done in previous seasons. So I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the Saturday match at 11, I think it is. So hopefully I'll be able to watch that, and that maybe gain some perspective as to where they are individually, fitness wise, and what Iraola is looking for from them.
Yeah, Tabrice, you're muted up.
I always do that. I can't really add too much in terms of what King Kev and Berman has said, apart from this is an opportunity now for mistakes to happen. And literally, what I mean by that is, there's a new style of play, there's a new regime, there's a kind of new type of language that the players now have to get used to. So playing the likes of Sunderland, Wrexham, Cosmo as well, it's an opportunity for the players to make mistakes, and literally that's how players learn. I think it's also, and again, like a great opportunity for the likes of Elliott, the likes of Ramsey, and the players who are literally on the kind of peripheral to actually show Iriola exactly what they're made from.
Yeah,
we have gone through this process at this present moment in time where we've not signed anyone, and I know a lot of people are very frustrated. However, I think Iriola must see something in the players that he's seen in training to say, okay, you know what? Let me see them in a kind of game environment to see how they cope in that, just in kind of different environments. And I'm really interested to see how Harvey Elliott responds now, because he was the forgotten man. Like he's only 23. I think he was the player of the tournament in the under-21s a couple of seasons ago. But again, that's how fickle football is. So I'm going to be very interested to see how like he now kind of gets into this Liverpool team, and also how the likes of Ramsey that we've not seen a lot of, how like he now responds at, within a position that we've like always been looking at a replacement for like Trent. So it's a period that us Liverpool fans really kind of should be excited about.
Yeah, definitely. So I take it we're happy with everyone who's out there. Obviously, I don't think there is anyone missing off the list. Simicast is in the team. I was just checking. So it looks like we've brought back all our players that were out on loan last season as well, which is good. So he's definitely going to have a good look at what he's got to work with. I want to come back to Az now, because he's got information on a player we're looking at. And then I'll come back to Kevin, to Brees as well, because I'd love to know the thoughts on targets you would like us maybe being mentioned to. But first of all, let's go to Az again and hear what he's got to say about this player we're being linked to.
Sure. So we've been linked to Monaco forward Magnus Akliouche. He was heavily linked to Paris Saint-Germain. Had another stellar season at Monaco. This is his third season in kind of the top level of France. He's had 109 appearances. Within that period, he has scored 6 goals, 6 assists in the league last season, 1 goal and 3 assists in 10 UEFA Champions League games. He's averaging around 0.22 assists per 90 minutes, so quite creative. However, his goal scoring record isn't to the level of Mohamed Salah. He's at a similar age, so 24. Where he does really start to stand out, however, is in those key passes. So he does an average of 1.64 key passes per match, and his passing accuracy is over 85% in the areas that we would consider dangerous, so the final third positions. Where I think he differs from Mohamed Salah and can offer us something a little bit different is his defensive work rate. Extremely engaged off the ball. He's looking at about 2.65 combined tackles and interceptions per 90, which means he really presses high up the pitch. He isn't a like-for-like Mohamed Salah replacement, though he's of a similar age. However, he is one of those players that comes through the French system where they're very tactically astute, they're very creative, and realistically, he looks like a player that could come in and fit well in the Areola system. Where I think the only concern really is that PSG do have a lot of financial backing, so if they do wish, they could probably look to go back in with a second bid or a third bid. I believe that 34 million was rejected, and that's where it's opened up for Liverpool. Quite an exciting one, though he isn't somebody that I think would be a household name just yet. He is at the right age to become one. So, yeah, watch this space. I think your standard kind of Fabrizio Romanos and the David Ornsteins of this world will be able to report very quickly as to what progress is being made within that transfer. But one to look out for, we are crying out for a right winger, of course, and this gent could fit the bill.
Sounds
I
good.
just want to say there was a lot of stats. There was a lot of stats, and you guys know how I feel about stats right now. Can this player fit into not only the Iraola system, but is he a player that fits into Liverpool? That is the key thing for me. Mo Salah probably had similar stats before he joined Liverpool. You know, Salah wasn't really anything special again before he like came. And again, when I hear stats, as you guys know, it honestly, I'm like, oh, doesn't really mean anything until I see him playing for Liverpool on the left or right wing. And again, it's about him adopting, is adopting the right word, but him realizing how much it means to actually play for our beloved club.
Yeah, I think that's all.
Oh, sorry, yeah, just carry on.
Sorry, no, I was going to say it's always a fear that stats on paper can look either great or not particularly great, and then the player comes in and they either exceed that or they live underneath it. I think the only thing that I would say that are important about these stats is they align really well with what Iraola is asking for of his players. So at least from what we can see right now and how he's playing at Monaco, this is something that we're hoping can translate again. Any player that you sign is always going to be a gamble. What I like to try and understand about those stats is, does that align necessarily with what we're looking for in a player and what the manager is looking for in a player? At least what we have right now is a base to say, this is what we know he is capable of. Now we're going to platform him to see if he can take that to the next level. So let's hope so, should that become a successful transfer.
Kev, what do you make of this one?
I'm a little bit on Tabrice's side as regards to stats. They don't fill me with joy. They can be misleading. However, my only concern, and I don't know anything about this player, my only concern is if we go by the stats and what he's achieved for Monaco in the French league, can he produce it in the Premier League? Premier League's a tougher league. The players seem to have less time on the ball. So if he's going to have less time on the ball, especially going forward, is he going to be able to produce similar stats as he was in France? That's my only concern. If he can, great. But again, you know, are PSG going to come back in for him? Are we going to put a bid in for him? If we are going to put a bid in, obviously it's got to be more than 40 million euros, which I think is what the original bid was, wasn't it? Something around about 40 million.
Correct. Yeah.
Which obviously they rate him higher than 40 million. So if we go in, let's say, with a 50 million, PSG can come in with a 60 million, assuming they do want him. So I think we've got to tread carefully and make the right signings at the right time, not obviously being outbid by other teams. If we desperately want a specific player, but not going spending money willy-nilly just because we need to fill a gap. We've got to get the right person. If he's the right person, great. But I don't know at this moment whether he is.
Yeah, I agree. But until they get their chance, you never know, do you? The two stats I really care about is goals scored and assists. But right, I would love to know now. I'll start with Tabrice and then we'll go back to Kevin and Az on this. Is what names in our squad right now do you think have the highest potential of leaving the club? Start with Tabrice.
Yeah, I think you are probably looking at Endo. I think you're probably looking at Curtis Jones, which will for me be a huge shame. If we're like, if we're like looking at someone that knows Liverpool inside out, it's football is a kind of revolving door industry, and the players that are now currently out at Liverpool, I don't expect even half of them to be playing against Newcastle, right? Our kind of first game. I think the biggest concern for me is the money that we allow these players to go for. So if you say
Yeah.
Endo, you're looking, if you're lucky, 10, 15 million possibly.
Probably
And
under, if I'm honest.
Yeah, probably even less. And then if you're looking at Curtis Jones, I know, was it Enter Milan? We're looking at him for, is it 30? Was
Yeah,
it
I
30
think they were
million euros?
floating around 30. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's not money that's going to really break the bank for Liverpool to actually buy replacements. I think Ramsey, I think this is probably his last chance to loon. He's going to play under, he's played under Klopp, Slot, and now Iriola. And if Iriola doesn't feel that he's up to standard, then I think he would have to go. So yeah, I would say those three. But I mean, I think Curtis Jones for me would be the one I'd be very disappointed him leaving.
If he left. Kev.
I'm not going to side with Big T on this one. I think Curtis Jones does need to leave. I don't think he's at the level that we need a midfielder to be at.
I agree with Kev on this.
He's not improved over the last few seasons. I don't
think I've seen any improvement in him.
No, I think he's at his level, his peak. I think he would fit in with somebody like a Forest, because I know obviously Forest are looking at him. So yeah, I just don't think he's got what it takes to be a first team player. He's okay coming off the bench at times, but we've seen him play some good games, but the majority of his games are mediocre. So for me, he would be one. Chiesa potentially. I think his market value is somewhere around about 13 million. But again, that goes back to this whole thing about it's not a lot of money. What can we do with that? The only thing we can put that in a pot, maybe add to it and buy another player. I think when you're looking at other players, maybe if the right amount of money came in from McAllister, potentially. But then you've got to be looking at around about the 85 million pound mark to get somebody decent in for him. Don't forget, he's a World Cup winner. He's a World Cup winner from last time. So he's got that in his locker. I think the only other one, maybe Gakpo. And again, that will depend on whether he performs pre-season. Maybe even they may even look at him in the winter to maybe offload. I think he's contracted till 2030. Didn't have a great season last season. And I'll stand up, and I was calling for his head last season because he was so underperforming compared to the previous season. So apart from the likes of Endo, who I think will go, those are the ones that I would sort of, if you're going to offload for some money to be able to get maybe somebody better, then those two would be the other two, Gakpo and McAllister.
Cheers, Kev. Az?
For me, realistically, I think it's Harvey Elliott is probably one of the more top of the list players that potentially could leave. It really depends on whether he gets enough minutes during this preseason, and within those minutes, he really impresses Iriola. If I'm not mistaken, he's in the last year of his contract. So if we are going to get any money for him, it's going to be this summer. He's fallen out of favour with Arne Slot, which honestly was a little bit of a surprise. I really thought Harvey Elliott would be one of the players that Arne Slot really does like. He wasn't completely trusted by Klopp. He was very much liked by Klopp, and I know Klopp really said that he wished he played him more. It does feel that he's kind of lost his way a little bit. He doesn't seem to be trusted completely by the hierarchy either at Liverpool, in that he's not quick enough necessarily off the mark, though there is something definitely there. He does have a lot of ability. So for me, Harvey Elliott is probably on the line, on the sort of borderline. I don't think we're going to necessarily lose Endo simply because of numbers and the fact that this is also his last season. I don't think we're going to get necessarily a transfer fee that would entice Liverpool enough. The one that I would watch out for is McAllister. McAllister had a very good World Cup. He's somebody that didn't necessarily have a great season for us last season. However, he is one of the players that you look at and has a relatively high transfer value. And again, if we do get that 80, 85 million mark, especially from a Real Madrid who haven't gone into the transfer window this season and really excited their fans, and we know that they pretty much more than any other club expect a big transfer each and every summer. So he's the one that I would really keep an eye out on. I think Ramsey is probably the third of that list where you go, potentially you're going to leave at the end of this summer should you not perform well or should you not get enough minutes. And the final one that I would say is Mamadishvili. There's been a few rumblings that he's not particularly settled in well at Liverpool. He's not gotten the confidence of the back four that play in front of him when he has played for us. And there have been links to other goalkeepers of a similar age. The fact that Alisson also has had his contract extended says to me that he's going to have another season on the bench. Whether he wants that or not, or is happy to be patient, is yet to be seen. So I would say they're the big three. The players that I would love to see kind of get another move is potentially Gakpo. But I think he's very likely to stay just because of our depth up front and the fact that he, again, had another good World Cup. But yeah, I would hate to see Curtis Jones leave. I'm another big fan, just like Tabriz is, of his. I think he's a really good recycler of the ball.
Quite opinion, this one, doesn't it?
We are, very much so. Yeah, I think, somebody who recycles the ball, very press resistant, somebody who's tactically quite well versed in exactly the way that we'd like to play. And of course, just being another local lad. But at the same time, if a really big offer comes in under the PSR rules and all the rules that come in with how you kind of amortize transfer fees, I can see Liverpool allowing that to happen as well. Because, again, he's not the first name on the team sheet.
Cheers. So, did you want something else to say, Big T?
Yeah, listen, I mean, you know what? I think with Curtis Jones, and literally, I know Curtis Jones probably splits a lot of people's opinion. Yes, he doesn't get into the first 11, but he's probably one of the first people that's going to come off the bench, which for me is as important as the starting 11. We actually need a lot of things happening behind the scenes, which I know Curtis Jones knows literally a lot about, which again, emphasizes how important he is to the connection of the fans. And we all talk about having homegrown players and literally having like players that know the city and like X, Y, and Z. Why would you want to oust someone that kind of typifies that in every single aspect in terms of how he plays? And 30 million again, that's, come on, I think we can cope without selling someone for 30 million because he is an England international as well. He is someone that I still think that can improve, and exactly what as says, he's kind of tidying the ball. I think his quality of passing is like really, really, really good. Again, he wasn't playing right back for like some of the games last season. I mean, he's not naturally a right back, so of course you are going to look quite suspect in kind of certain games. No,
it's a fair comment, and I'm glad you brought the right back up because this was the next thing I wanted to move on to. So it was either yesterday or the day before Iriola, once the team had landed in America, he had done another press conference, and he was speaking about potential transfers and positions he would like to strengthen in, and the right back position is one of them. He thinks Conor Bradley is obviously gone because of his serious injury, is going to be out for quite some time yet. And the way he was speaking, Gomez wasn't really getting a mention. So could we see Gomez leave? Because he's severely injury prone, isn't he? So he wasn't against trying to find a right back to fit the bill. So before we come on to do this, I've just grabbed a few names just to talk about, to throw some ideas out there. And I'd love to know if you've got a name to put into the mix that you think could do a job. But these are the 5 names I've come up with. So first up is Michael Coyote from Brentford, one of Europe's consistent defensive fullbacks, strong attacking output, elite dribbler success. I've also got Jivaro Reed from Feyenoord, one of Europe's top young fullbacks. He's only 19 years old. I've got a Marco Palestra from Atlanta. Apparently, we've been at concrete options and are monitoring him. This is new to me. This is just what I found out today, and then a couple of players from Tottenham, Archie Gray and Pedro Porro. Do any of them grab your fancy, or is there another name on the list you'd like to throw into the mix? And what type of right back do we want? Do we want that Trent type right back who can play the ball out, good range of passing, or would we prefer someone a bit more solid in that position who puts in a good tackle? Where for you is the most important attributes to have in that position? This time, let's go Kev first.
Palestri is one that I've heard of, that they were looking at going after. A decent player. Another name I would potentially throw in the mix would be Jed Spence.
Yes.
He had certainly had a brilliant game against Argentina. He was phenomenal. In fact, he was my player of the match. He was phenomenal that day. Shows exactly what he can do. For me, my concern, and we did speak about this on the breakfast show this morning about the right back position, is what you were saying this morning was right, and the fact that they were potentially looking at a sort of stopgap player until the likes of Bradley's not injured anymore. Is that the right move? Or should they be looking at a long-term player that could vie for that position with Conor Bradley and potentially Frimpong? Because that's what you want. You want competition in each area. And it just makes you more determined to keep your place. Makes you play better.
I think personally, Kev, I would go and get someone around 24, 25-year-old who can challenge Connor for X amount of seasons. You need two players in every position anyway.
Absolutely.
So unless money's tight and you've just got to go and get an old guard with a bit of experience to see you through a season, maybe a season and a half, to Conor Bradley to see how Conor Bradley might come back for a little bit and get injured again. You just don't know, do you? I think if the money's there, you strengthen young.
Yeah, he could end up a bit like a Gomez, where he's constantly injured. Yeah. He has been injured several times over the last couple of seasons, playing in that position. It just seems to be the position of injuries. Everybody that plays there seems to get injured. But me personally, I would be looking more at a long-term player rather than a short-term player. Just how many times have we used a sticking plaster on positions?
Yeah, we don't want to be doing that this season.
No, we need to be strengthening the depth and on-field positions on a permanent basis, not a stopgap.
Yeah, I'll be really honest, and this may be just bias, but the names that you threw out there didn't fill me with excitement. Perhaps that's just wrong of me, and again, it is that bias of not necessarily knowing the players and watching them play. Jed Spence is somebody that's quite interesting to me. I think he's really developed into a really strong fullback and can also cover both sides of both left and right. I would think that it's really difficult to get him out of Tottenham Hotspur. I don't think they're necessarily in a mode where they want to sell. However, they are a club that has spent big, so perhaps they would be open more now than at any other point to accept the bid. The name I do want to throw out there, and I know this is a bit of a rogue one, is if anybody thinks it would be worth, if we are going to go down the stopgap route, or a route which is not necessarily somebody who's going to pin down that position purely for themselves and compete with Conor Bradley, is bringing Nico Williams back. He's had a pretty consistent time at Nottingham Forest. By no means pulled up trees, but is somebody that knows the club, would be homegrown, and has developed into a really reliable Premier League fullback. So yeah, that's the name I'm going to throw out there.
I'll let Big T answer this, actually. Let me throw this at Big T with whatever answer he's going to come with. Is he good enough if we're to lay down strong foundations to challenge this season?
As in Nico Williams?
Yeah.
No. No, he's not. Why? And also, why would Nico Williams come to Liverpool to be a stopgap? He's like playing every week at Forest, And see, Forest have got Glasner, who like, by the way, defensively, is an absolute tactical genius. He will learn a lot more defensively from Glasner than he will from Iriola. Why?
Right.
There's like no reason for like him to leave. And I'm quite similar to the like transfer names for like right backs do not excite me. And I think we also, and again, this is how fickle football fans were. Before the World Cup, people were scratching their head thinking, Jed Spence. Like, why would you take Jed Spence, someone that, that was part of almost a relegation threatened Spurs, that was, on the pitch quite petulant towards Thomas Frank. It didn't, it didn't make sense. And, he played 3 or 4 decent games, and now people are saying, oh, like he's a Premier League top 6 left back or right back. I think if we were going to get a stopgap, which is crazy to even say for Liverpool to get a stopgap, I think someone like Matty Cash. I think he's at an age where a move to Liverpool, I think he'd relish that challenge. He gets, he gets up and down the pitch pretty well. He scores goals. He literally assists. And I don't think it'd be a lot to actually get him out of Villa with the kind of financial constraints that they have.
Good call, actually. I do like him.
Yeah. Right, to move on then. How are we doing for time? Just one last thing to go round then, really. So this is all about pre-season. So just to recap, really, we'll start with Baz. What do you really want to see from this pre-season tour? Obviously, we want to see Iriola's style of play, what he's going to bring. I think he's going to favour a 4-2-3-1 system, but hopefully with a more attacking prowess about it than what we were used to under Slot. But for you, Baz, what would you like to see over the next 3 or 4 weeks before the season starts?
So for me, it's less about necessarily the results that are going to come from these preseason friendlies. What I would really like to see is us going out on the front foot. A lot more energy than we saw under Slot. I think it started to get a bit difficult to watch because it was so slow and a bit tired and a bit repetitive. So I'd like to see a little bit more chaos, almost a little bit that little bit of excitement that you go into a football match and you're not ready for what you're going to see, or you're not really expecting what you're going to see. So yeah, a lot more of that front footing, a lot more pressing. What I would really like to see as well is us being quite flexible within our tactical approach during games. So can players figure out exactly which positions they should start taking up based on the way that the opposition are playing, and having a little bit more freedom to not be so rigid as it felt we were under Slot. In terms of the rest of it, the few that I'm really excited to see is exactly what Harvey Elliott's going to come back and bring. I'm really excited to understand if he's going to fight for his place at Liverpool. I'm also quite excited to see exactly the way that Iriola is looking to build up play in the first instance. So one of the things that Bournemouth were very good at is pressing quite high and trying to win the ball back quite high. But if teams are sitting back, what's he going to do? So yeah, a few things that I'm really excited about, but I'm hoping more than anything else is this team going to bring us as fans back some of that energy that we were missing from last season?
Cheers. Tabrice.
I just want to echo exactly what, as I said, I want to see smiles back on people's faces. That's what football, is about. Slot, with like all of his, I was a Slot inner. I'll literally confess that now. But I just want to see smiles on people's faces. I want to see players actually wanting to play for Liverpool. I want to see mistakes. I want to see mistakes, them playing the way that Iriola wants. I don't want to see safe football if that's what Iriola doesn't want. I want to see us concede goals and for Iriola to actually tactically change stuff and players to respond to that. Pre-season is pre-season, again,
it's all about experimenting and trying before
100%
results, isn't it?
Definitely. But I think above all else, smile with the fans, smile with the players, literally get, people back on board, especially at this present, in this kind of current climate where literally we're not buying anyone. That's probably like the biggest concern for every Liverpool fan. Again, it's, it's kind of just to say, okay, we are moving in the right direction. We know exactly what the new coach and the new management is about. And I just want to see Kevin, Paul, and Az and myself smiling every single time we do.
Do you know what? Me and Kev do watch-alongs, as you know, on TikTok, and it would be nice to look forward to a game and go into it confidently, because I think for the majority of last season, once the cracks appeared, it was a hard season, Kev, wasn't it? Speaking of which, let's come to the Silver Fox for his final words. Kev, what do you want to see out of this pre-season, mate?
I think a little bit like Az was saying about not really concentrating too much on results. For me, pre-season's always been about fitness, getting the players up to peak fitness or as to a peak fitness as they can do for the start of the season. That, for me, is vital, because if you're not at that level, you're going to start to run out of gas in a game at the start of the season. And that's where you're going to end up making mistakes and you're going to end up losing games. So I think if they're at as peak fitness as possible, I want to see this front foot football that's pressing high. But if we're pressing high, everybody needs to press all at the same time, which then closes gaps. Again, a little bit like as was saying, if teams are sitting back and playing the low block, how do we break it down? What has Areola got in his head, tactic-wise, to be able to break down a six-man defence, let's say, with a couple of players in front of them? You need to be pressing in numbers to be able to do that. And I want to see quicker ball movement, because last season our ball movement was absolutely like a snail. It was just too slow, build-up play. We don't want to see that again this season. Because the best way, in my opinion, of breaking down a stubborn defence is to pass the ball quick. If you pass the ball quick, you end up making the defence shift position quicker. And if they shift quicker, they start losing their sort of line of vision of where the ball is, where they're supposed to be. That's where gaps get created. And you want to then see our players running into those gaps and the ball either being knocked over the top or a through pass into those gaps for a player to go on and have a shot. We didn't do any of that last season, and that causes major problems. So I want to see that, and I want to see togetherness in the team, the players. Like Tabrice was saying, smiling, having fun in training sessions, even having fun on the pitch when they're playing these pre-seasons. Because I think that then sort of encapsulates a great team atmosphere. And that's what you want. And what you want then is also to get the fans on board, because the fans are your 12th man. And if you've got the fans on board, we know, and other fans that support Liverpool know that can push you on to win a game that you're potentially going to draw. So that's what I want to do.
Thank you. Just before we wrap this one, I just want to mention one other player. We've not really spoke about him today, and that is, if we go back to the start of last season's pre-season, Rio Engamoa hit the ground running. This lad hit the scene, come out of nowhere. I'd never heard of him. I didn't even realise we had signed him. And then I'm watching the pre-season games, and he really lit up and made me excited. It was almost like when the likes of Fowler and Owen come through the ranks as a youngster. When they appeared and got their chance, they just offered something that weren't in the team, So I really hope Engamoa gets a great pre-season and can convince Areola to give him more game time than he got under Slot. I did sit here over the course of last season telling people we need to be patient with him. He is very young, but now I do believe he's close to 18, if not 18. He's certainly filling out as a young man now. he can hold his own, and he plays without fear. And I find that very exciting in him. So I'm going to leave it there. Unless any of you gentlemen have anything else to say, we'll wrap this one up.
Yeah, you know what? I want to echo exactly what you said about Rio. It's going to be a big season for him, you know. It's going to be a big season for him. He's an England international now.
Yes.
You know, so there's no excuses. Like, he's played with the big boys. He's played with the big boys.
And it's exciting. It's exciting as a Liverpool fan to know we got somebody that young and exciting to watch. As football fans, I think that's what gets you out your chair, isn't it?
Yeah, massively. I know Chelsea were really upset about losing him. I think he's the biggest testament that I can give him is the fact that we didn't speak about him, because we already see him as a first team player, and it's almost as if he's part of the furniture in a really good way. He's a really exciting watch, and really looking forward to him this season.